Hi, it's me JD and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be doing pop-up cards. Pop-up cards are so much fun, they're really interactive, and it's so nice that they're really simple on the outside, but when you open them there's this big surprise on the inside. First, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Now let's jump right into the first card, which is a center T bracket pop-up. We're going to start off by scoring our note card right down the center, and then we're going to cut down two pieces of paper that are both 2 inches by 4¼ inches and score those right down the center as well. Then we're going to fold those 2 strips of paper in half right down the center, and then they form 2 L's or 2 V's, depending on which way you look at it, and we're going to put them together to form a T. And so before we do that, I wanted to create the base that my pop-up is going to stand on. So I'm using 2 pieces of scrap acetate that I have because I wanted the base to be all transparent. I think it just creates a really cool effect when you do it with acetate versus cardstock. But you can use either depending on what you want your pop-up to look like. So now I'm putting double-sided tape on one side of the L bracket, and then I'm going to kind of lay out my base with some flower die cuts that I have. And then I'm going to stick the other L bracket on my note card. I'm going to sandwich my acetate base in between my 2 L brackets to create the T bracket. And for this, you really need some good, strong, double-sided adhesive in order for the pop-up to work. From there, you can add whatever elements you want on your pop-up. I'm using these really cool layered flower dies, and they add a lot of stability to my pop-up, considering like how many layers of cardstock I have on there. And I'm using double-sided adhesive to adhere them all to my acetate base. Once that's done, I will remove the acetate from the other side of the T bracket and fold it down and stick it to my note card. And there you can see the completed T bracket pop up. I'm going to score down my note card again because I want it to be a nice crisp fold. Then I'm going to work on the front of my card and add some more of these flowers that I had extra standing by and just cutting off the excess of it and adhering that to the front of my note card. And this pop-up has got some pop. I mean, with all the layers of acetate and heavyweight cardstock, plus the bold flowers, this card is definitely a standout. The next pop-up card features DIYing your own pop-up cuts in your note card. So first, I'm going to use my stamp positioner to create some stamped elements. This stamp and die set features a palette and flower design, so I thought that would just be perfect for a pop-up card. A little change of scenery now as I change out my work surface to my cutting pad. I have a 5½ by 8½ note card that I scored down the middle, and then I use my pencil to draw lines about 1 inch from each side. And then I'm using my craft knife to make slits along those lines. And you definitely want a nice sharp knife as well as a ruler to make these cuts. Just to avoid any like fussing around with your cardstock, like I'm doing now. Anyway, so once you have your slits in, you're going to fold that piece inward, if that makes any sense at all. See what I'm doing? It made a rectangle shape, but I want the rectangle shape to be on the inside because that will eventually be my pop-up element as I open it. The good thing about DIYing your own pop-up slits is that you can make them any shape and size that you want. So I'm going to make my slits about the size of the palette, and then that will be my pop-up element. I'm then going to cut up some acetate strips and then attach my stamped flowers to those acetate strips. And then once I have that all done, so I have a bouquet of flowers, I'm going to use some strong double-sided adhesive to stick them on my pop-up element. I'm going to be using some painter's tape to temporarily adhere my palette to my pop-up element, just so I can better visualize how I'm going to stick my flowers in. And now I feel like a florist, even though I'm the furthest thing from a florist you could imagine. Anyway, so once I have all my flowers on there, I'm going to attach my palette using some more double-sided adhesive. I'm going to press that down and make sure all the flowers are nice and stuck on there. And then once I fold the card, I realize I did not think this all the way through. The flowers are hanging off of the edge of the note card. The flower gods are mad at me because I tried to impersonate being a florist. Therefore, they're like, no, silly card maker, you stay in your lane. I decided to leave this part in the video because, number one, I want you guys to learn from my mistakes and to not do what I just did. Number two, I didn't want to have to do that work all over again. And number three, I encountered a problem and I found a solution. And that's a lesson for card making as well as in life. So here you go. What's the solution? Well, the solution is to take the entire element and put it inside of a bigger card. That way I can hide all the flowers and contain this mess, and no one will ever know that I messed up, unless they've watched the last 60 seconds of this video. Anyway, moving on. So I wanted the bigger card now to have some more interest to it. So I decided to put some ink down along the border to just tie it into my stamped element. Then I'm going to attach it with some double-sided adhesive, fold down. And as you can see, I have a giant card now, but the pop-up element works and the flowers all fit in. So now I'm going to work on the card front. I'm going to ink blend the same color, but I wanted some more interest to it, so I decided to put a stencil over top and ink blend the same color to have this like ghost effect on my card front. Then I'm going to heat emboss a matching sub-sentiment, die cut out the word hello, attach some glue to that, and put it on top of my sub-sentiment. Then I'm going to attach that to my note card and make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to work, finally. The next way to create a pop-up card is by using Accordion Die Cuts. This method is a little easier than the second card. Well, actually, they're both pretty easy. I was just a ding-dong with the last card. So you're going to start off by stamping some images. And I'm using these butterflies because they are symmetrical. That is key to this method, is by using symmetrical images for your accordion die cuts. And then this is a very rare time where I'm showing my coloring on screen, and I show it very briefly because I'm not very good at it, let's be honest. And so once I have all my butterflies stamped, colored, and die cut, I'm going to score them down the middle, and then get at least 3 to 6 of these die cuts in order to make the accordion pop-up work properly. And fold it the right way, JD. Jeez. Other way. There you go. Next, I'm going to adhere all of these die cuts together on each side. And so I'm taking one wing, attaching it to another wing of another element until all 6 of them, are attached, and then I'm going to use some glue to attach all of these butterflies to my note card. And I use glue because I wanted some wiggle room before I adhere this down completely to my note card. And then once that's done, I'm going to fold it just to make sure it works. And then I have a bunch of spare butterflies, so I'm attaching one side of the wing to the card just for more butterflies. I wanted a flurry of butterflies, both 3D and flat. And then I'm working on the front of my note card. I'm just stacked some alphabet dies that say thank you. Well, I actually don't think these are alphabet. I think these are word dies. Yeah, these are word dies that I stacked up, attached to my card front, and then that's my card. The next way to do pop-up cards is to just use pop-up dies, because sometimes you just don't want to do math. You don't want to measure, you just want all the guesswork taken out of it. And so this is the lazy way to do pop-up cards. Actually, it's really not lazy. It's actually quite fun. And so I used this pop-up set that created a pop-up element for my card, and I'm adhering it down and then scoring it at the score lines that the die also implants on your cardstock. And before I attach all of my elements, I wanted to work on the background of this card. It's going to be like an ocean island pirate card. So I used another die to cut out my ocean waves and attaching it to the background now. And then I will adhere my pop-up element. And this pop-up element is great because it creates like two different hills. So you get a little more bang for your buck, a little more pop in the pop-up, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to adhere some khaki cardstock to represent the sand in my island. I'll just cut off the excess sand. And then from there, I'm going to work on the front of the card actually. I'm going to use the other part of that ocean cardstock and just adhere it to the front so I don't waste any more paper. And then I'm going to pull out some stamped images I had colored previously, and then I'm going to adhere them to my pop-up element and into my background with some good with my tape runner. And then I wanted this treasure to be popped up as well. So I'm using some more scrap paper and I'm creating like an L bracket to pop my treasure chest up. And it's really simple. It's you just cut out a sliver of paper and attach it to your element and stick it on your card like so. And this is the point where I realized that I am out of glue on my tape runner. Yep, definitely out. So I gotta get my other tape runner because that's what crafters do. We have like 2 or 3 or like 5 of like everything. And then I just fold down my pop-up card just to make sure everything works and nothing's gonna get caught up in another element. So that's why I moved the treasure chest. I'm gonna fold it down to make just to test it out. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the front along with some ocean waves from the same stamp set. And then I'm going to stamp an X for X marks the spot from the same stamp set along with another sentiment. I'm going to add an exclamation point to that. And then I wanted to add some clouds to my ocean sky for a little more interest. And I'm taking out a marker now to create like a treasure map element with some dashed lines to the treasure map leading to the treasure. And then this card is done. This would make a really cute card for a kid or just for anyone that likes pop-up cards. I mean, I love seeing cards, and this pop-up element really makes things easier to create them. The last way to create a pop-up card I want to show you is using the twist and pop method or the pivot pop-up die. I'm going to first start off by ink blending some clouds onto my note card using Distress inks and Distress Oxide inks and a cloud stencil, making sure to leave room at the bottom to write my sentiment. I should note that my note card is 4 1/4 by 11. And then I'm going to die cut out the elements from the pivot pop-up die. I'm going to attach, I don't know what Kelly from Lawn Fawn calls this element, the actual pop-up. I guess there's a pop-up like banner thing that I'm attaching the two sides together to, and then there's like the pop-up like mechanism, which is that weird thingy-mabobber stuff. Yeah, I don't know what to call that. But first I realized that I have to make my pop-up banner coordinate with my note card, so I'm just ink blending some clouds onto that to make it match. And now for the pop-up mechanism, I fold it first away from me, and then along the axis I fold it towards me. If you're looking for a more concise tutorial on how to use this die, I'd highly recommend checking out Lawn Fawn's video on it because I am useless. Anyway, so I'm going to attach some double-sided adhesive to the triangle part of this pop-up mechanism. And then once I have all that, I'm going to attach it to the center line of my note card. I think the hole in the middle of the mechanism is supposed to help you line it up, but I just eyeballed it because I like to live dangerously. All right, now I'm going to attach remove the other backing of the double-sided adhesive to my mechanism, fold my card down on top of it so it attaches, and now my mechanism is in place. And then you add some more double-sided tape to those little flap things to the thingamabobber, and then adhere your pop-up banner to it. You're going to fold it in to like a W or an M or W. Either way, you're gonna fold that down, and then stick the far left side and the farthest right side to the flaps of the pop-up mechanism, and then you're gonna fold that down to make sure things work. And you have to open and close this a few times to sort of train your pivot pop-up to actually pivot and pop up. So next I'm going to use some stamped images for my background, and here's another rare shot of me coloring. And I color on screen because I don't color the clothes of my characters until I know what card they're going to be in, just so I can better coordinate my whole card. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment. It's a boy, if it wasn't obvious, for this pivot pop-up card. And I'm living even more dangerously because, as you can see, my fingers are so inky right now, and I wanted the card front to be all white. This is going to be like a gender reveal card, and so very inky fingers. Be careful. And so once I stamp my sentiment, I'm going to pop up a stork from another Lawn Fawn stamp set and attach it to my card front, attach that to my note card, and then just make sure that everything works. I really like that it's so clean and simple on the front, and then when you open it, it's just this wow factor on the inside. And so let's recap now. First, we created a T-stand bracket for this thank you card that has really cool popped up 3D flowers on the inside. Then we DIY'd our own pop-up cuts in our note card. Just do as I say, not as I do. Always measure out your card first before adding your pop-up element. Then we have a accordion pop-up card where we cut out a bunch of elements and attach them together to make an accordion shape on the inside. And always leave room for your sentiment. That's key too. And then next we have using metal dies to create take the guesswork out of creating pop-up cards. So there's this cool pirate scene card with this pop-up die, and I also added my own L bracket to the treasure chest. And then finally we have the pivot pop-up die, which creates a twist and pop card, and this created such a cool gender reveal card. I highly suggest keeping it simple on the outside to surprise your card recipient with the pop-up on the inside. That does it for today. Thank you for watching, and let me know which was your favorite card down in the comments below. Thanks!